about Faizan today, and also something perhaps a little bit about South Manchester Muslim Walking Group, for those of you that don't know much about it. I just want to also say thank you for coming along to be with Asim Bhai, Dayaba, Inaya and Dayab as we celebrated Faizan's short but incredibly fulfilling life. When you watch that video that Inaya was playing and imagine that this person in 20 years seems to have packed things that we couldn't do in a whole lifetime of 100 years or so, it gives you some idea of how incredibly fulfilling he was. But I also want to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of man life and the universe. We are reminded that our lives are very short, but that in this very short time, we have so much to do and actually can do so much. MashaAllah, we set up South Manchester Muslim Walking Group in 2018. And I have an incredibly wonderful admin team here. So if the admin could come forwards, please, to the front, I'd really appreciate it. Rehan, Shahid, Deva, Rizwana. So these are some of the admin who have helped to set up South Manchester Muslim Walking Group, and of course Raheen, sorry. South Manchester Muslim Walking Group was set up with essentially three major purposes. The first was to improve our own health and well-being. All of us are under an immense amount of stress at the moment, whether it's in our personal lives or when we're watching what's going on in the world around us. We can't but think about what's happening to our Muslim brothers and sisters in Gaza at the moment, and in Lebanon, and throughout the world, where they are being tested and don't have the same opportunities as we do here to be able to still enjoy the world around us and things. We're reminded that it's not just about stress. There's all sorts of other challenging problems that we've got at the moment. People becoming more overweight, developing diabetes, high blood pressure, back problems, as well as, I say, mental health problems as well. And certainly since COVID, unfortunately, throughout the world, we've seen a massive increase in those kinds of problems. But the other thing that we've also noticed, and I myself am a GP, is that the family unit seems to be breaking down, and more you're finding fathers, mothers, children are moving apart, and you know, who knows, maybe some of us here in this room are struggling with our own issues with our own families and things. And one of the reasons for setting up the South Manchester Muslim Walking Group was to encourage families to come together. So it's lovely to see parents, grandparents, children come here today to be with Dayaba and with Asim Bhai and so on, but also to recognise that we also have our own families, and supporting each other is very, very important. And then thirdly, it's amazing how you can sometimes travel to the other side of the world to find out that the person sitting next to you happens to live 2 streets away, and yet we don't know each other. And even today, on the walk that we've been, as you've been forced to stand and talk to someone next to you, you've suddenly made new friendships, which I think is so, so important, realising that we can all be supporting one another and helping each other. So those are our 3 purposes for the group. Firstly, to look after our own health. Secondly, to bring our families together. And thirdly, for families to support, to get to know other families so that we can become a community ourselves, as you can see today. Little did I know how many people I would meet through the group. That wasn't my purpose at all. And just looking at everyone today, I'm thinking, subhanAllah, I'd never imagined that something like this would come along and we'd be able to help each other. But in that same way, it was, I think, 2019 when I first came across Faizan. I had no idea who Faizan was. Those of you that don't know about him, I wanted to share a little bit about him, and that was that when he was born with very, very significant health problems. He had heart issues and all sorts of other issues. And the doctors had told Dayaba and Asim Bhai that he had maximum a year to live, perhaps even less than that. He would never be able to walk. He would never be able to do the things that we all take for granted. And yet, mashallah, we saw that that child who was not able to walk not only started walking, but in fact in 2015, I think it was, he actually won a race. And of course, it was 2019 when, for the first time, he came on our walking group. And I didn't know who he was, and he did a proper walk, and absolutely enjoyed it and loved it, and would hang around me and ask me things, and thank me for just coming along on the walks and really, really enjoying it. And sometimes, you know, we don't realise the impact it's having on other people, and yet clearly for him, it was really important. And it didn't really impress on me very much because, of course, I get to meet lots of people. Until Deva and Asimbai started saying, Amir, you've had a huge impact. This walking group has had a huge impact on his mental state, on his physical health, on his knowledge that he knows that he's keeping up and walking with other people. Things that we take for granted was very, very important for him, to the point where he was literally walking like anybody else was. You know, we weren't slowing down for him at all. And I remember very well, we did a picnic 2 years ago. We have an annual picnic. And he came along on the walk afterwards, and it was a good 15, 20-minute walk, and he really enjoyed it. And I remember Deva saying to me that, Amir, you know, he never would have imagined to be able to do that. It was just so wonderful to see him. So I just want to talk a little bit about the walking group itself, further and beyond that, because I'm sure many of you went on the walk today. In fact, I've had a number of people today talking to me about how it's the first time they've come on the walk. And again, there's another benefit that Faizan's had, that his memory led to people coming on a walk. And they were talking not so much about Faizan, but they were saying, do you know, I've really enjoyed this walk. It's been really, really nice. Met some lovely people. I want to come and join the walk itself. And it made me start to ask the question, why is it? Because we were the only, I don't know if you noticed, but we were the only Asian people on that walk today in Alderley Edge. Where's everybody else? There's more than 600 Muslim families just within this area, and yet we were the only group. And why is it that us, as Asians, as Muslims, why are we not going on these walks? There are a few reasons, and I just want to raise a little bit of awareness around that. It's not really what we do as ethnic people, is it? You know, we tend to sit in houses, meet with families, go out for food. We don't go for a walk itself, so it's not something that we naturally do. Often, we don't think of those areas as being places where Muslims would visit or Asians would visit. We tend to be much more comfortable with going to Winslow Road or, you know, going to the cinema or whatever it might be. Sometimes we might feel as though we've been unwelcomed and this isn't really the right place for us to go to. Perhaps there isn't very much promotion of this going on out there, so you don't really see Asian people as people who go walking. There are socioeconomic barriers. It's not easy to go to these places if you haven't got cars, if you haven't got the means to get there. And then finally, there aren't the role models. You know, when you think about who the role models are, they're in restaurants, they're in hotels, they're at gigs and places like that. You don't imagine people wanting to do that. But you could see that Faizan was a role model for all of us in many ways. If he can do what he can do, what's stopping us? And he was going out on those walks, and he was encouraging other people to go on these walks. He had a real fear of dogs, and you know, so he would post on TikTok his videos of how he overcame those fears. And certainly I've come across people who've said, oh, I'd go on a walk, but I can't go because of dogs and things. And yet he was showing us how he could overcome that. He was a role model for us, and we now need to become role models for other people as well. We need to overcome the cultural barriers that are stopping us from doing these things. We need to think about the modesty concerns that some people might have around, for instance, if they're wearing Islamic dress codes, especially for women. It doesn't stop you from going out and enjoying the walks. And certainly in our group, we've got many people who've worn the full hijab and jilbab or whatever and still manage to go on the walks themselves. People worry about, well, how am I going to pray namaz? Well, how am I going to do my wuzu and things? And again, we've done that. We've arranged for people to pray namaz at the time for namaz. We've done walks that start from a masjid. So if you want to do your wuzu and read namaz in a masjid and then go for a walk, we'll do that. We've broken the perception that this isn't something that Muslims do, this isn't something that Asians do, by actually going on the walks. And hopefully you've all experienced it today, that we can actually go on a walk, we can then still come back, we can still pray Zohar and Namaz and enjoy ourselves in this beautiful world that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for us. And then it's sometimes not seen as a family-orientated thing. Walking is seen as you just do it on your own or you do it with 1 or 2 people. But you've seen today how actually we can get a group of 30, 40 people going out and enjoying the walk itself. And we can be represented on the media. A few weeks ago, BBC Countryfile contacted us and said, we'd like to interview you for children in need. And mashallah, we went on a walk, we were interviewed, we went on BBC TV. I don't know about other people, but people contacted me afterwards and said, hey Amir, I saw you on the television talking about walking. What a wonderful experience that was. And there was pictures and videos of us laughing and smiling and enjoying the walk itself and breaking that sort of recognition that we don't do this type of thing. And really starting to encourage people and say, it really is easy to go for a walk. People have turned around and said to me, Amir, the thing I like about this is I don't have to think about it. I just turn up and I just follow whoever the go-to person is and just enjoy the company and being with everyone. And then in terms of children, our children are our future. We have a moral responsibility to support those children. They could become the vulnerable in society, but they could also become the stars, the leaders who show the future, who make the future happen. Breaking the cycle of poverty so that when they're coming on the walks and things, perhaps they can meet. There's so much knowledge and experience in all walks of life here. Our children could talk to us while we're going on these walks and find out about things. And I was just hearing from Anwar Bhai about how he travels around the world as an engineer. And even though he's over 70 years old, he's still being called to go out and do work and make a difference. To create a better future, our children can learn about leadership, innovation, contribute to society itself. It's about human rights, that they have the right to not just exist, but actually be productive and help other people. It's about preventing long-term harm. There's so much neglect, abuse, poverty out there that we're having to deal with that no one ever talks about. But here is an opportunity for us to come together and support each other and prevent those things. And promote equality so that everyone has an equal chance to be the best that they can be. So finally, I just wanted to say thank you all for coming. I'd love you to come and join us on our walks. We go every Saturday and every Sunday. We've got a great walk tomorrow. It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's a relatively moderate walk, but 5 hours long, but it will be a lot of fun. If you do want to join the walk, on the Faizan group, I've sent a message. There's a form that you need to complete. It literally takes 30 seconds. Please complete the form, join our Telegram group, come on a walk, and continue to maintain the legacy that Faizan has started. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.